JJ Fat, and we're here to rock.
Thank you. That would be great. Who's on the mic?
Testing.
Andy's on the mic. Are you feeling all right? All right, baby, baby. Huh? And then we went to dinner.
We
Next.
did. We did.
It's called the American Social. It was just at this little, like, so there's a hotel across the street from the bank, and it's just in their lobby because we didn't want to walk very far. We just had an appetizer because they had like $3 off their appetizers. So it was buffalo chicken dip.
Just a little bit of a something, something.
I ate lunch late, so
And my husband is feeding all of the people who live in my house. So that's
and I'm going to the gym right after this.
I
I
am
don't
not.
want to go.
I am not.
It is.
I am not.
It's going. It's there. I've got an accountability partner that's gonna meet me there. I'm like, I will not be there.
You know, I'm not good if I have to leave my house. I'm not gonna work out. I do well at home, but if I have to like go some, it's not gonna happen. Hmm? I have no. I have some free weights. I have dumbbells. I have an elliptical. Yeah. Okay. Well, my elliptical now has about a half inch of dust on it.
Lord.
Just saying.
On that note,
Happiness.
listen, we're so grateful to be in our financial education series, part two, tonight with our friends from National Bank of Indianapolis, and so we're excited for tonight to hear about what they're going to go and talk about. I believe we're doing rebuilding credit. So the hot button topic, everybody wants to talk about credit, amen. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and then we'll be ready to learn. Okay.
Hello. So we
Hello.
have Lady Chelsea in the building. We got Caprice in the building again, and we have a new attendee, Miss Daylin. And we're so happy to have her here with us today. And I'm sure the ladies and Pastor Jordan can share with you. This is just a conversation. We just here talking and learning. And so it is completely informal. If you have questions, please ask. If you just want to share something, we're happy to listen. And, you know, that's what we're here for. And actually, you know, we enjoy small crowds because we get to know you and you get to know us.
Yep.
And that to me is the ideal situation when it comes to something as personal as your finances, right? Nobody wants to talk about that in front of a whole lot of folk, even though the reality of it is most of the people in the group probably going through the same thing as you. We just have been conditioned to not talk about those things, right?
True.
So we want to move forward and help folks get to a position where you're where you want to be as it relates to credit, as it relates to savings, and all of your financial health. So, hello, welcome. Hi, welcome. So before we get started, because we do have a couple new faces, and we did meet Miss Daylin already, but if you wouldn't mind sharing your name with us. I know you just got here. What's your name? Kayla. Thank you. Nice to meet you. I'm Charlotte. This is Andy,
I'm Andy. Hi.
better known as Peas and Carrots. That's what they call
Yep.
us at work. When you see one, you see the other, whether you like it or not. So So we do this together all the time.
Yep.
And it's really, it feeds our soul, right, to help people in this way. I shared with the ladies last week, this work is personal to me because I come from being a single mom who was 18, didn't have nowhere to live, been there, done that. So when I'm talking to you, I'm not talking to you as a banker necessarily, even though I have my banker hat on. I'm talking to you as a sister because I get it. Andy and I are from the same hometown,
Yep.
oddly enough, in central Illinois, which we found out
Well, the day you started,
the day I started, which we knew at that moment that we were peas and carrots. So, but that's how God brings people together, right? You just don't know. You don't know who you're going to run into. So this topic today is credit. Credit is one of those things.
Good, bad, ugly,
All of it.
all of the things.
So even folk that think they know how the game is played don't be knowing how the game is played. We were in a meeting yesterday with a person who has been in banking for over 20 years, and he still believed a myth associated with credit. Still, after 20 years working in the bank. And Andy, you see it all the time.
Yep.
Andy looks at credit reports every single day because he does mortgages, right? And we know that that's a huge piece of the puzzle when you buy a house. So we were shocked, I think, shocked that this person who had been in the bank for so long, or a bank for so long, still believed one of these long-standing myths about credit. So we're going to address a little bit of that tonight because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so that's why we're here. So first question is,
It was going to be, what do you think a good credit score is?
just throw it out
Number.
there. A number, any number. Good credit. What would you say if you say that person has good credit? What do you think their credit score is? Okay, that's good. That's good. What about a bad credit score? We've seen them down in the 400s. We have.
Yeah.
We've seen them. We've seen them in the 400s. It's not as common. Most of the time, you see fives, but the 400s we do see. Do you know? So tell us, what are the 3 credit bureaus? Experian, that's good. Equifax, that's another one. And TransUnion, y'all got it. Okay,
Awesome.
good. Those are the 3 credit bureaus that the banks deal with as related to your credit. So, if you have something that's on TransUnion, does that mean it's also on Equifax and TransUnion? Or Experian? You're right, because all things do not report equally, right? So you have to make sure you keep an eye on all 3 bureaus, because something might show up on one that's not showing up on another one. So that's something that a lot of times people struggle with a little bit, okay?
And that's why a lot of times you're going to get, most of the time, if not always, you're going to have 3 different scores. They're going to be all 3 different. Sometimes they're going to be pretty close, but they're always going to be a little bit, they're going to vary. Each bureau will be a little bit different.
And sometimes you'll have a bureau that's way different than the others. You can see that too. You sound like, Chelsea, you have seen that. That's a good question. So that depends on what you're doing. If you're talking to Andy about buying a house, which is usually the ultimate goal, right? The banks all use your middle credit score. So whatever that bureau is, that's the score that he uses.
Yep. And it can be any 3 of them. It might be your TransUnion, it might be Equifax, it might be but it's going to be whatever that middle number is.
So
if you've got a 745, if you've got, let's say 745, 701, and 689. I'm going by 701. That's
every time. And that's how banks do it as it relates to mortgage, that middle score. Okay? So, and that's the most equitable score. It's not the highest, it's not the lowest, it's right in the middle, which gives you the fairest shot, if that makes sense. So give us some reasons, if you will, why you think some people have credit that's not so good. What are some reasons that people have bad credit? Non-payment, okay. Late payments, okay. What else? Collections, that's a good one. And Miss Capri says student loans, bad credit.
What would make it bad? Did you say default? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
Okay,
right.
so if you're in default,
Default. Yep.
what else? No, you have no credit, which is very different than having bad credit.
Yep.
Okay, so yes, Kayla. It depends on how you're looking at it. Okay, and we're gonna talk about that. So another thing that can make your credit score bad is if you have your credit run all the time. So you go into Old Navy because it's Christmas, and they say, we're going to give you 30% off if you get an Old Navy card. And you say, oh, yes, I'm going to do that. And then you go down the street to Macy's, and they say, we're going to give you 20% off if you get a Macy's card. And you say, I'm doing it. And then you go over here to Foot Locker, and they say, we're going to give you 20% off. And so now you have what they call 3 inquiries. Hard. So multiple inquiries in a short period of time are going to lower your credit score, no matter what. We'll get there. Give us one. That's a very good question because that is new and it's recent how they handle that, okay? They're not. They're not now. They're, okay, so we'll get there. We're gonna get there, and that's a very good question because again, it's changed in the last 10 years. So you all said late payments. You said non-payment. We said multiple inquiries can take your credit down. What if you have high balances on your credit cards? Your utilization, right?
Good one. Yep.
That also, you could have 5 credit cards and have $25,000 in credit. But if you owe $22,000, your score is not going to be good.
Yep.
So you're a person, obviously, that can get credit. You got credit, right? But maxing those cards out will drop your score. Okay? So one of the things that people do is they go, you know what, it's bad. I know it's bad. I ain't gonna look at it because I know it's bad. Ain't no sense in me doing all that because I know it's bad, right? That's what we do, and that's human nature. And I don't want anyone to feel badly about that because that's what we do as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't get us where we're going. We must look at it. We have to face it, and we have to handle it if we're going to fix it. So the first thing you want to do, if you really are on a path to buying a home, fixing your credit, whatever that looks like, is pull your credit reports.
Yep.
How do you do that?
Every year, each individual is able to pull their credit without it affecting your score at all, and you go to annualcreditreport.com.
Annualcreditreport.com. Now, don't be fooled, because when you put that in, there'll be all kind of stuff that pop up, right?
Yep.
Annualcreditreport.com. You get all 3 bureaus once a year for free. You want to pull all 3
All
bureaus because, as we said, you don't know. It can be overwhelming because you're going to see everything. They ask you a lot of questions in the beginning. That's why if you, like, for instance, Daylin, if you call me in my office and you say, hey, can you go over my credit with me? Can you sit down and can we look at it together and find and make a plan? We can, but we're going to ask that you do this before you meet with us because they're going to ask you a lot of questions to verify that you are who you are. It's going to be 15, 20 minutes before we even get to the credit reports, just because they don't want anyone being able to access your
credit.
stuff. So we ask that you pull that before you meet with us and either bring it with you. It's going to be a lot of pages.
A lot.
A lot of pages. Or email it to us, right, before we.
And then we can print it out. Because believe me, it's a lot of pages. So don't spend the money printing it out. If you don't have access to a printer, we'll print it for you. Don't.
Send it to us. Send it to our email. We'll print it out and have it ready.
And then we can go over it.
Yeah.
Because believe me, it's gonna look like it's in,
You
Chinese
know what it's
or
gonna look
Japanese.
like?
It's gonna look weird.
It's gonna look like never mind.
Yep.
That's what it's gonna look like. Never
don't wanna
mind.
look at
Just
it.
never mind.
Yep.
But everything. Yeah. And we'll talk about student loans a little bit. They are calculated differently. We'll talk about that. Yes. 12 months. If you pull it in, let's say you go home tonight and you pull it January 20
I would wait until January
of
of
next year
2027 to do it again. Oh, we can do it whenever we could make an appointment.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you pull it, because you want the most accurate information. You don't want to be trying to figure out stuff that either ain't on there no more or
Yeah, like
you
I
took
wouldn't
care
do
of
it tonight and then meet with me in May, because then it might be really out of date. You might have changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you're ready to start diving into it, that's when I would say to do it. Because what's going to happen is you'll call us and say, all right, I got my credit reports. I really don't understand it. Because it does, as to Andy's point, it looks like a foreign language, a lot of it. We'll have you come in and we'll sit down and we'll go through it. And the thing is, this is chess, not checkers, you guys. And that's what we tell everybody. You heard of these credit repair folks? Pay me $79.99 a month, and we're gonna fix it. Don't ever pay anybody to fix your credit.
It doesn't.
It is the biggest mistake that you can make. Because it's predatory. Because people want it fixed, and they'll do anything. So yeah, if I can give you this money and you fix it, yes, fix it.
It's just like those little ab stimulator things that I keep buying that don't work, but yet they keep putting them out
'Cause
there,
you
and they're
want
better
it.
every year. But
Same thing with diets, right? Oh, you go on this diet, you're gonna lose 86 pounds. They profit off of people's dreams, is what they do. And it's no shade. People got to make their money, whatever. But that same $79.99 that you giving Brian over here because he said he gonna fix it, you could be paying towards your debt.
Yep.
And being more effective. Because all they're gonna do is the same thing you can do for yourself. That's all they're gonna do. Because it's not magic. They don't have a magic trap door that they go in and say, oh, I got the plug. There ain't no plug. All they're gonna do is utilize the strategies that you can use yourself as long as you know how to use them. That's it. So, that being said, don't ever do that. It's tempting. I've done it. Don't do it. The other piece of this is it's easier to build credit when you don't have credit. So if somebody comes to you and they say, Andy, I really want to work on buying a house in 2027, but I don't have any credit.
Okay.
What would you advise them to do?
Okay. First thing that I would tell them is I say, okay, let's look at getting you probably a credit card. And if they have no credit at all, right, like they have absolutely nothing in their name, I would say let's try and get you what's called a secured credit card.
Everybody know what that is.
Does anybody have a question on what that is?
And
Okay.
it's okay to ask.
Because really, that's why we're here to do that.
Well, I'm going to tell you anyway.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to tell you
Oh, yeah,
anyway.
if people are watching.
Yes.
if you don't
Hello,
know.
everyone
Okay.
out there in TV land. Okay. If you get a secured credit card, what happens is you take, and in most cases, it's like a $300 minimum.
Yep.
So it's tax time coming, y'all. Right? You may have some money that you don't have any other time of the year. You take $300 of that check and you put it in an account. And that money is held as collateral. Then the bank issues you a credit card with that credit limit. So you put $300 in the account, you get a $300 credit limit. 500, same thing. It's not about how much you put in there. It's not about how big your credit limit is. It's how you use it. So you get that secured card.
And you start charging things on that card, but you're going to use that as credit. You're going to pay that back. But it's collateral for the bank because they have that. They're kind of taking a risk, like giving you that credit card, but it's their safety net because you've got that money in there.
So that money stays in there. It doesn't go anywhere.
So if for some reason
you don't pay
that, they've got their good money there sitting there, and if you decide, oh, I'm not going to do that, they're okay.
Well, it's like your car, right? You don't make your car payment for 3 months, they come get it. Same thing.
Right.
That money, you don't make your payments, they're going to take that money, and that's why it's secured, right? So
Except with the car, you can beat it all up, and it might not look as good as when you got it. But I'm just saying, anyway,
put it at your friend's house.
Yeah,
Don't do that.
whatever. But that money's still sitting in the bank. But yeah,
So
exactly.
so a secure credit card is a great way to start building some credit.
And it will. It really will. The other thing that you can start doing is thinking about, self-reporting. It doesn't always really do a whole lot, but you can at least start like self-reporting like your cell phone. You can self-report your utilities, like such as like report your, Citizens Gas. I always still call it IPL, but it's AES now or whatever they call it. You can do things like that. It's not going to help a ton, but it will help. But the secured credit card is going to be the best thing. And once you have that, getting the next thing would be opening another credit card.
2 credit lines.
And that's about it. You're not going to want to open really anything else until you get those 2 things and you're used to using them.
So let's yes.
Mentioned self-reporting, so I feel like y'all need this mic. You mentioned self-reporting, so how would you self-report? And then also you just mentioned so we have the secured card, but then getting another line of credit. Would that be a secured card or would that be something else?
So it can be something else.
It
So
could be,
a
yeah.
secured card and a car note, right?
Yeah.
A secure card and a personal loan. Anything that's going to report your activity. Now, the secret to using that secure card is, and this is what I tell people, do not use it for things you would not automatically be spending money on already, because that defeats the purpose.
This is a
Don't
good
get
trick.
in and say, I'm going shopping. Don't do that, because that's how you get yourself in the hole. So you want to get that secure card, and you want to do things like, this is my gas card. I am only putting gasoline on this card. I'm only putting my Netflix subscription on this card. My Hulu, my Disney Plus, that's going on this card. Why? Why do you think that's a good idea? Because I saw you was like, oh.
One thing a month, and that's it. And it's going to report each month, and you pay it off. Right?
You're already spending the money. You're not spending extra money. It's already money that you got coming out anyway. You put that Netflix subscription on that secure card and set it up for auto pay.
Auto-draft, you never even see it.
You
It's
never
done.
even see it. So all of a sudden, 6 months later,
You've got a great
you got a
credit history
700 something credit score because you pay that bill like
every month.
clockwork.
And then it'll be real easy to get yourself another line of credit.
Yeah, and again, be thoughtful about that, right? Don't just go out and get something. Think about it, right? Most of the time, a car note is something that's inevitable. You know, if you need a car, you need transportation. Most of the time, that's a trade line. That's what we call those credit-producing products. They're called trade lines. So if you go into the bank and they say, well, I see you only have 3 trade lines, and you're like, what are you talking about? That's a trade line. Any credit-producing product. So that's the appropriate way to use a card if you're trying to build your credit and you don't have any. Now, what about if you got credit and it's just not good? Because we know, right? That's where most people are at, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. So we're not claiming that, and we don't say that we messed up, because we didn't. We say we got a little work to do. Got a little work to do.
Areas for growth.
We have areas of opportunity. It's not, I had a young lady over at New Direction after our credit seminar there. And afterwards she said, excuse me, can I ask you? Sure, what's going on? Well, my credit is shot. I said, baby, how old are you? She said, 28. I said, your credit ain't shot. You 28. It's not shot. I promise it's not. Because 9 times out of 10, where'd it go? Okay. 9 times out of 10, you think it's worse than it is. That's just what it is. You think it's worse than it is. I have very few times run into somebody that thought it was a lot higher than it is. Now, I have had them, but not often, okay? So depending on what's out there, that solution is different. But it's always a multi-pronged approach. You can't do one thing to fix it. You got to do a few things. First thing is look to see what you got in collections. Do you have collections? Right? Collections, no matter how big or small, are going to harm your credit.
Yep.
No matter what. I've looked at credit reports. Andy looks at credit reports. They got a collection of $57.
That's all. Maybe
$57.
that's it. Pay it off.
We're going to talk about that because we don't want you to get there. We don't want you to get there. So, or you'll see collections for $142. Or I had a Sprint bill, $238, right? So the majority of collections that we see are not huge amounts of money. They're just not a priority because it doesn't affect our ability to live right now. So we don't look at that and say, I got to take care of that.
And you're not getting mail about it. You're not hearing about it all the time. And when you don't know about it, and because when you're looking at different credit than when you're buying a home, like consumer credit, they might not tell you about it. What we're going to try and do when we look at your credit, like if you go to annualcreditreport.com, that's going to show you everything, right? Everything. Like everything that might be out there that is a collection.
And you want to make sure they're yours.
Yep.
Come on, man. We see folk that's parents, them put stuff in their name. They didn't even know. So that's another reason. I've had people who have great credit and who have no reason to worry about their credit. And I say, are you checking your credit at least once a year? No, I don't need to do that. Yes, you do. Because scams are sophisticated nowadays. And you don't know what's out there until you know what's out there. And the best way to handle that is to be proactive and not reactive, because if you do find that there's something out there that's not yours, it's going to take you a long time to fix it. You don't want to wait until you're ready to do something.
'Cause
and
it's
then
not a
get
great
set
look.
back. So everybody, regardless of your credit situation, needs to have your eye on it, no matter what. So if your credit is bad and you need to fix it, we talked about collection. So what Andy and I will do, or Andy or I will do, or however that works, whatever we do, we're going to look at those credit reports. And we're going to say, okay, we got this one out here, we got this one out here, we got this collection out here. We got to take care of those. You want to take care of the small ones first. It's easy. 57 bucks. Okay, but a lot of times if you call, and on your credit report there's a phone number. If you call that phone number most of the time and you say, look, I owe you $233, it say on here, I got $120. 9 times out of 10, they're
They'll
going to
settle.
say, okay, why? Why do you think that is? Why would they do that? Something's better than nothing, and they're not used to getting those calls, right? They used to calling folks. They're not used to getting them calls. But why? So this is something people don't know. These collection agencies buy that debt for pennies on the dollar. So they might buy that Sprint bill. That's $583. They paid $126. And now their job is to collect on that. So even if you take that $583 that they bought for $126 and you call them and say, look, I got $200, they already done made their money back. See what I mean? That's the game.
Because Sprint wrote that off.
Yeah, they done.
They're done with it.
They're done. They don't care. That's why if you call Sprint and say, hey, I owed you a bill a few years ago and I want to, they don't have that bill no more. They're going to tell
call
you
that
to
a
call the
loss.
collection. You don't owe them. You owe the collection agency because they bought the debt.
So that debt's still out there.
It's not gone. It just is owed to somebody else now. Did it? Yeah, but that's how it works, because that's how these companies keep going. They couldn't keep going if they held that debt on their books forever. They can't do that. So these collection agencies are in business to buy those debts, because they know eventually Chelsea want to buy a house. Eventually,
Somebody's gonna
they shall want to take care of her stuff. So we gonna get our money. It may take a while, but we gonna get it. Make sense? So 9 times out of 10, and it's not 100% of the time, but I say 90% of the time, if you make the call and you say, hey, says I owe you $400. I want to get this taken care of. I got $180 right now. 9 times out of 10, they're going to settle it. And on your credit report after that, it's going to say, settled as agreed. Okay?
And that's what I need to see it.
I pass y'all this mic. So when you called and said, hey, like this $500 debt, all I got is $189, do you then at that time request, hey, I just paid this, can you send me
And
Yes.
an email saying that this
Send
was
me
paid, settled as
something
agreed? And
that
I
is
know it's
settled
gonna pop.
as agreed.
Okay,
Yes.
so just make sure.
Yep. Please send me an email, mail me a letter, something that says
this
that
is paid.
it's
and
paid in full.
settled and paid to zero, settled to zero.
Because it won't update right away.
Nope.
It won't.
And it
Because
is
it's
going
not.
to linger out there on your report. It's still going to show as something, but it's going to show as settled and zero.
And if you have that letter, right, and you bring
need
it
to
to
keep
Andy
it.
and you say, hey, I know this says it's on here, but I have confirmation that I took care of this. That's what you need.
It literally just happened. I had a closing on Tuesday. I had the client couple credit issues, and when we were going to closing, right before, the client was going to need to pay a couple collections off, and I have to do like a 10-day pull right before we go to closing, and it was maybe 8 days because of the way the weekend fell or something. And the client's credit had 2 collections that still showed out there that were showing as
Open
and the
collection.
client was able to send me the emails, and we were totally fine because I've got the actual, showed the account number that matched my credit report from the creditor, and we were totally fine. Everything worked because I knew, and then I could match it with the bank statement showing that the client had actually made the payment.
And I'm glad Andy said that. And next week we're going to talk home buyers education specifically, right? And we're going to talk about that the whole hour. But just to kind of bring that up and have y'all thinking about something, they always pull your credit again right before you close. People don't know that. I have had, because I used to do Andy's job, right? I used to be a mortgage loan originator. And I've had people who 5 days before we supposed to close went out and bought a Cadillac. They did. Because somebody told them, well, they already done pulled your credit. Go buy your car, girl. No. So that took their debt to income ratio way up because they had a $700 a month car note now that they didn't have when we started.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that as we get into home buyers education. But yes.
Part of the reason I did bring that up, though, is I wanted to tell you that even if you are thinking about buying a home and you do have what you would think might be credit issues or something that might be lingering out there, just because they are out there, that doesn't mean that it's going to completely hinder you from buying a house.
Right.
Just because they are out there, you can still work through things and maybe have that credit score that you're still okay
Yep.
to buy
Maybe.
a home.
And that's
We're not
case
always
by
right
case.
there, but I just want to let you know that that client did have those things, got those taken care of, and their score was still good at a good enough place where they could close on a home.
So just so y'all know, your credit will drop like a hot rock, but it takes a while to get it back. There is no quick fix. I've had people call me and say, well, I paid that off. It should be up there now.
Nope.
When you pay it off? Yesterday? That's
Call
not
me
how
back
it works.
in 8 months.
So it takes at least 45 days for it to totally update on the bureaus once you pay something off. And you're going to see it go up like 2 points. You're going to be like, now when it went to collections, it dropped my score 53 points, and now it only went up 2. That's the game.
For it just to update on the bureau.
Yes. So once you take care of something, it takes time for it to show and for it to change your score. So don't expect to see that right away, but you will see it. Okay? Yes.
Credit, sorry. Are we going back to the credit card topic? Because I got a question.
Yes, we
before
can.
leave from
Yep, we can. Give me just a minute.
Okay.
Let's talk about, we talked about the fact that it's a multi-pronged approach, right? So you're going to pay your collections. You're going to settle what you can, right? But what else? You also need to build a new history. Meaning, now you need a good credit line. So you need that secure card, right? You need that new credit card that you're going to do the right things with, because what that does is it tells the bureaus, not only is Kayla taking care of her old stuff, but she also is showing us that now she gets it. Maybe she didn't get it back then, but now she's had this new credit card for the last 8 months, and she's paying off her old debts.
Right.
Okay, Kayla gets it now. That's the signal, right? So it's not enough to do one and not the other. You really have to do both at the same time. Yes.
Okay. Well, to just what you just said, do you have to get a fresh new card to
build the history, or could you just start doing right or what you should have been doing with the current card? So, like,
You
for
can.
example, you can.
Mm-hmm.
So long as you have like an open card,
Yep.
you get the balance down,
Yep.
and then you can just start doing right. You don't
Yep.
have to necessarily
You don't
like
necessarily.
open up a new
You
one.
sure don't.
So, okay, my question is, the avalanche method or the snowball method? What would you
It
recommend?
depends. It just so there is no one size fits all answer because every situation is different. If you use the snowball method, we'll talk about that a little bit. Sometimes that's easier because you're paying those smaller balances off first. And if you're trying to get collections off of your credit report, I would say the snowball method is the way to go because if you take care of a little one, it's gone. If you start knocking down a bigger one, it's still there. I mean, you're knocking it down and it's doing you some good, but it's not the same as knocking it out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a $80 collection and you got a $800 collection, you'd be better off taking care of that $80 collection first and getting it gone, and then chopping away at the $800 one.
So, I just put it out there in case anybody else is having this problem, I guess. So specifically, my question, like the scenario is like, okay, multiple active open accounts for
Mhm.
credit cards, right? It's hard because what is it? It's 2 dates. It's the statement closing date or something like
Yep.
that, and the due date.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't catch the right date, then you get the insurance. It's just like defeating the purpose, I guess. Like you're trying to pay the balance down, but then they keep adding on the interest.
Yep.
Like how do you?
That's why I think for people who are trying to build or rebuild, my recommendation is snowball. If that's not your situation and you're just trying to pay your debt down, the avalanche method is good because avalanche you deal with the higher interest rates first, which saves you money long term. But if you're a person who's trying to fix your credit, you want to start at the lowest credit card amount and knock that down and then keep going. Because you're more effective in terms of your score that way. So it's money versus score. That's what you're talking about. Ultimately, you're talking about saving money, fixing score. It's not the same goal.
You can't have both.
You can, but does that make, you can, but that's how we fail is because we're trying to do too much.
Okay, so yeah.
So if
So I'm
you
trying to do
have
too
a
much.
card out there, let's just put it on, we just gonna say it like this. You got a card out here, you owe $5,000.
Yep.
Then you got one that you owe $3,000. Then you got this one you owe $1,500. And then you got this the first one you ever got. And you owe $400 on that. Right? Because I got a $300 limit card right now,
Yeah.
right? And you got to keep them open.
Don't close them.
Don't close them. Keep them open because it matters. We don't talk about that.
The age.
Length
Yes.
of credit, exactly.
Credit history.
Keep
So
'em
you
open.
you close out that very first credit card you got, and you done cut off all that history. Okay? So you don't want to do that. Keep that little $300 card. Put your Netflix on there. Let that do its thing, right? But you want to pay that small car off first, and then take that payment and add it to the next bigger one. That's the snowball method. Then you want to add that payment. What is it? $30 a month. You want to add that 30 to the minimum to the payment up here. Pay that one off, and then keep going. But if you're doing the avalanche method, that for me, and you tell me, it's for people who ain't necessarily worried about credit score. They just need to save money. So they're trying to knock those high interest rates down first. Is that
Yeah.
so it's different goals. So I may be telling you that, but then I meet with Mr. Smith over here, and his goal is completely different. So his solution is different.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Credit history. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, when I was working in the banking center at another bank, when I was a little baby banker, I had a married couple. They had been married 18 years. They were getting a divorce, sadly. And one of the things that was in their divorce decree was you got to pay off all marital debt. Okay? Okay. No problem. They did that. They went their separate ways. The missus became another missus eventually. 4 years later, the ex-husband comes into my office and he says, "Hey, Charlotte, how you doing? Good to see you. Hey, I'm ready to start my business. I'm ready. You know, I worked all these years in this industry and I'm ready." Guess what? He never opened another credit card after his divorce. So even though this was a person who was in very good standings, they did well together, they paid off all that debt, guess what happened? He couldn't get business credit because now he don't have no credit history.
Never reestablished.
That's the moral of the story, right? So he was in great standing before. They just had to pay that debt off so they weren't taking it forward. When you get a divorce, they try to separate everything. And they should. But he never opened it. He was like, "I don't need it. What I need a credit card for?
Right.
I make good money. I don't need credit." You know, he was old school. If I can't afford it right now, I don't need it. Ain't that what we always heard? I don't need it. Hell, she was using the credit cards. I don't need that. That was her. Right? But now here he is 4 years later. No credit.
And you need it.
So we grow up hearing, you don't need no credit card. If you can't get it right now, you don't need it, right? Because there was a time in history that was a real thing.
Yep.
There was. I mean, cash is king. You know, I worked in the jewelry business for years and years and years. I still had old folks saying, you know, if I give you 1,000 cash, that don't matter. But that's the way they got conditioned to do business. That's not the world we live in. Credit equals good, debt equals bad. And they are not mutually exclusive. So, you want to pay off the bad stuff. You want to create good stuff at the same time. That's how you get that score up. Let's talk about judgments real quick, because that's different. What's a judgment? What's the difference between a judgment and a collection? An eviction is a judgment. Taylor, Caprice, get that mic.
Listen, get me together. So a judgment essentially would be like you actually went through the court system and the judge actually like either had to garnish and signed off and said, you owe this debt and you got to pay it.
Yes, that is a judgment. The gavel went down. This is your debt, right? That is a judgment. Judgments have to be paid. Period. Why? That's a garnishment. That's a garnishment. Eventually you can. But I am a big fan of the why. I don't like to just tell people, oh, you got to pay them judgments. I want you to understand why it matters. So if you, let's say you go and you go to Andy and somehow you're able to buy a house, which you wouldn't be if you have an open judgment. You would not be. But the reason for that is because they can put a lien on your house. And they will. They will. So if you owe $6,000 because you had a car repossessed And there was a judgment on that, and the judge said you owe every bit of this $6,000 because that includes court fees and costs and what you owed on that car, and you let it sit out there, because chances are you may not even hear about it for years, but you gonna hear about it eventually. That has to be paid off, because if not, the bank's gonna, and this is not gonna happen. You're not gonna buy a house with an open judgment.
Right.
But if you did, what happens?
What?
They find out you own property.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, hey,
It's our
we
house
need that.
now.
Yep. And we won't take second position.
Yeah,
The bank won't.
so the bank has security interest in the house, meaning the bank is the person that holds the interest in the house, right? The house is the collateral on the loan.
Right.
But if XYZ car company sees that you own a house now, their loan is going to come before their
our
lien
loan.
is going to come before the bank's lien. And the bank is going to say, we're not doing this, and call the whole loan due. So that's why you can't buy a house if you got an open judgment. So I've had people say things like, well, why not? Well, that was old. But you have to understand the why. We don't want you to just get a house so you can say you got it. We want you to get a house so
And
you can
stay
stay in
there.
it,
Yeah.
right? And the bank don't want it back.
No.
So that's why if you have judgments out there, those have got to be taken care of. There is no if, and, but, maybe, no gray area. Now, I had a situation where I had one with my ex-husband. Yep. And when I got ready to buy my house, I had to say, hey, I got to get this somehow taken care of, but that wasn't all my bill. So guess what I did? I was able to send that company my divorce decree because I was smart enough to say to the courts, hey, this ain't all mine. Only half of this is mine. Can I pay you my half? And then you send me something that says I'm paid in full. And I was able to do that. And it came off of me, and they go, here go his address.
Now,
You want his phone number?
Can we also talk a little bit about actually we'll talk about that when we get to the home buying thing.
Home buyer's education, that's one you got to bring your notebooks, because there's a lot that goes
We
into
might
that.
do two about that one.
And we can do another credit one too. I
Yeah.
mean, we can, because we do
'Cause
talk
it's
about
after
credit a
everything.
lot
Yeah.
when we talk about home buyers education. So we're not done
Yeah.
with the conversation. Just know that. Just understand that it's a lot to digest, and we get it. We get it. But we will address all of that. So my recommendation, because it's already after 8 to Andy's point. I told you this, I told you credit is one that just can go on and on. I will, and yes, we'll take your question, Caprice, but I do want to say, write down whatever you didn't get tonight, or if you think about something later or tomorrow, jot those things down, and then when we get started next week, we can answer those questions first.
Yep.
And then move into home buyers. No, you can ask.
I was just gonna ask, what number should we be aiming for as far as like being able to get approved for the loan? Looking for a home?
600 typically.
At least a 600?
Yeah, typically. But again, that number can't be comprised of certain things. So 600, but no judgments, right? So there again, it's a whole formula. But 600 is typically the minimum for our first-time home buyer program. That's no money down, and we'll talk about that as well. 600 is where you want to be. Yeah, why you looking like that? You members already. I mean, you ain't got no account, but you members to me. No, you do not.
No.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's the minimum that you want to be at. So write down your questions because we want to get them answered. And next week, we'll start there.
And I brought my cards this time.
I'm on Andy so bad about these cards. No. Ain't no wrong thing.
All right, friends. Thank y'all so much for coming out tonight. Can we give our wonderful Bank of Indianapolis peeps a round of applause? I really am excited for y'all sharing and coming. This is really helping. So if we could go ahead and just bow our heads as we close out in prayer. Most gracious God, Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for everything that we were able to observe and learn. Lord, we thank you for the ability just to be good financial stewards as we leave this place, but never your presence. May the sweet communion of the Holy Ghost rest, rule, and abide with us. Lord, I thank you for just safe travels and just give us all traveling mercies to get back home. And we just thank you for what you're doing in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Y'all have a blessed week.